This is Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. I'm Pia Ontiveros. Tonight on the program, as severe tropical storm Florita weakens, Cagayan officials report 2 people were injured and hundreds displaced. After detecting the country's 4th monkeypox case, the health department says it is not yet enough to declare a local transmission of the viral disease. And these never-before-seen images of the largest planet in the solar system, NASA has released new photos of Jupiter. We begin with severe tropical storm Florita, which has displaced hundreds of people in Cagayan Valley region. Florita is bringing heavy rains and strong winds with storm alerts up in a number of areas in the region. In Cagayan province, local officials reporting that 2 people, one in Tuguegarao City and the other in Enrile town, were injured because of fallen trees. We're in the storm path with almost 500 people evacuated. In the municipality of Peña Blanca, strong winds and rain in nearby Tuguegarao City, massive floods turned roads into rivers, as seen in this video taken outside the Cagayan State University Carig campus. In another video, a number of homes in a subdivision are flooded, while some people wade through ankle to knee-deep water.
Bago pa man pumasok sa PAR, itong si STS Florita, nararanasan na ng probinsya ang araw-araw na pag-uulan. So yung saturation level po ng aming lupa ay hindi na masyadong nakakapag-absorb. So ang worry po namin, kapag binagsak tuluyan ng STS Florita, yung kanyang daladalang tubig, we are worried baka magkaroon kami ng rain-induced landslides and floods.
Florida's impact prompted President Bongbong Marcos to suspend work and classes earlier this afternoon until tomorrow, August 24th. The order covers government offices and public schools in Metro Manila, Cavite, Laguna, Rizal, Bulacan, and Zambales. Florida made landfall in Mahonacon, Isabela this morning. The province is no longer under any storm signal, but moderate to heavy rains are still forecast there. We now go above and beyond the headlines with Isabela Governor Rodolfo Albano III. Good evening, Gov. Thank you very much for taking our call. We understand hindi po tayo pwedeng mag-Zoom dahil mahihina ang signal, but you can still be contacted by telephone.
Yes, thank you very much, Pia. Thank you very much for your concern. Here in Isabela, we're not experiencing that much flooding like what's happening in our neighboring province in Cagayan.
Okay.
Hello,
Pero meron,
yeah.
pero meron pa ring effects, no? Impact.
Yeah. Ang impact nito, hindi na passable yung mga bridges, yung mga overflow bridges diyan sa Santa Maria. This is in the northern part ng Isabela, no? Sa Santa Maria and sa Santo Tomas, Isabela. But yung mga hindi pa natatapos na big bridges na kasama nitong mga overflow bridges, pinadadaanan ko na ng mga tao, basta tao lang and motorcycles. So kasi hindi pa sila kailangan buksan pero pinabuksan ko na rin just in case na syempre pag may emergency, binubuksan na namin itong mga bridges na ito. Pero doon sa narinig ko kanina, doon sa Tuguegarao, kasi boundary lang namin itong Tuguegarao and Peña Blanca. We're not experiencing that much rainfall and that much strong winds na sinasabi ng mga tao doon. At may baha na sila doon. Hindi namin na-experience pa dito sa Isabela. Bagamat tumataas na yung level ng water dito sa northern Isabela. Sa southern Isabela, I'm very happy na medyo wala na yung wala nang ulan at saka medyo maliwanag na doon. Dito sa northern Isabela, yun medyo hazy pa at tuloy-tuloy pa yung pag-ulan na pakonti-konti.
In terms of the number of residents displaced, sir?
Yeah, in Mahonacon, nung naglandfall, there were about 150 families, totaling to 380 individuals that were evacuated already. Some evacuees also were done here in Santo Tomas and some in some parts in Cabagan. There were evacuees there, but very minimal lang Pia.
Relief goods, Gov.
What?
Relief goods.
Yeah, relief goods. I'm very happy to tell you, that the newly appointed chairman of PAGCOR will deliver tomorrow as promised, as he had promised me, as he had contacted me kanina. This afternoon lang, he promised to deliver about 24,000 relief goods. Well, maybe some of that will be given to our coastal towns, and some I'll be bringing it to Tuguegarao, Cagayan. Kung hindi namin gagamitin dito, Pia. Kasi syempre sharing na lang kami sa mga kapitbahay na nadadamay dito sa bagyong ito. No? Surprisingly, Pia, last Sunday, nagkabaha na rin kami dito because of heavy downpour of torrential rains and in the municipalities of San Manuel and Aurora. Na nabutas yung mga canals and yung mga lumang creeks na hindi makadalo yung tubig, yung creeks na biglang napuno and umapaw doon sa mga rice fields, nagkaroon ng baha dyan sa dalawang municipalities. Pero as of now, okay pa kami.
Well, that's good to hear, Governor Rodito, that you will share what you no longer need eventually.
Yeah,
at the same time, kanina pinag-uusapan po natin yung mga displaced families. So that means two things, that schools, I suppose, were used for as evacuation centers, and at the same time that displaced nga po sila, nakabalik na po ba sila sa kanilang mga bahay, and were they able to return to homes that are still intact?
No, isama ko na ako na hindi pa namin pinababalik sila sa mga coastal areas. Kaso lang, wala kaming doon only communications lang, radio communications lang nangyayari sa Maconaco kasi walang daan papunta doon sa eastern side lang, Isabela. Those are coastal towns, so nahirapan kami mag-monitor talaga doon. But everything is in place na last night pa. Nung sinabing darating si Florita rito. So in place na kami naglagay na kami ng pre-positioning of relief goods. Actually sa akin naman palagay, sana wag lang mag-ulan hanggang bukas ng ng umaga ay hindi makakabaha rito sa lalawigan ng Isabela. Except doon sa Cagayan, kung nagkakabaha na dyan, talagang malaki na ang problema dyan, Pia.
Gov, sorry po, ano po yon?
Yeah, alam mo, Pia, nag-usap kami nila Presidente just last Tuesday about yung sa zona niya about integrated water resource management na prelude to the creation of the water department na gusto i-create ng Congress, dinala ko si Secretary Babe Singson doon sa kanya at napag-usapan doon na talagang kailangan na tayo i-manage itong water resources natin dito sa Pilipinas kasi nagpapasalamat si Secretary Singson kasi ang gusto ni Presidente, binanggit ni BBM, si President BBM, nung zona niya yon at talagang yung pag-address ng water problem dito sa ating bansa, kailangan na magawa na sa lalong madaling panahon. At in-explain ni Secretary Babe Singson, kasi expert siya sa water, di ba? In-explain niya itong mga kinakailangan na ito, especially na 30 agencies, po na rin ni President BBM na bakit 30 agencies yung nasa water natin, yung water agencies natin na hindi na integrate, so naging kanya-kanya sila. So I think it's high time na talaga na ma-address natin itong water problem
integrated
natin.
Water
not
resources,
only,
right?
Yes, not only yung drinking water and also all the waterways na binanggit ni Secretary Babe Singson kay
And-
President,
Of course,
President
yes.
BBM and ES Vic Rodriguez.
Of course, Babe Singson, former Public Works Secretary, and
Yes.
always in times such as these when we have a typhoon, talagang naha-highlight po yung mga problema at mga challenges na kailangan harapin. For example, integrate water resources management. At the
Yes.
same time, all these roads and bridges that must be maintained and or built. Thank you so much, Isabela, Governor Rodito Albano. Salamat po, sir, for being with us tonight. Florita slightly weakening as it cuts through the northern portion of Apayao in the Cordillera region. Pag-asa says the severe tropical storm is moving northwestward at 20 kilometers per hour. It is expected to exit the country's weather monitoring area Wednesday afternoon. Signal number 3 is up in Ilocos Norte, Apayao, the southern portion of Babuyan Islands, and mainland Cagayan. The Weather Bureau warns storm force winds may cause significant threat to life and property. Ifugao, Mountain Province, Kalinga, Abra in Cordillera, and Ilocos Sur and the rest of Babuyan Islands are under signal number 2. The entire Nueva Vizcaya and Benguet provinces have been downgraded to signal number 1, together with La Union, Quirino, the northern portion of Nueva Ecija, and parts of Aurora. Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez speaks up for the first time on the supposed illegal sugar importation order. Rodriguez is pinning the blame on 2 former Sugar Regulatory Administration officials. Amor Santos has the details or the highlights of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee's hearing.
More details emerge about the controversial Sugar Order Number 4, which was supposed to allow the importation of 300,000 metric tons of sugar. Executive Secretary Vic Rodriguez admits to receiving a draft order on August 5th and that he did not respond to queries made by then Agriculture Undersecretary Leocadio Sebastian thereafter.
And the message contains, and I quote, Good afternoon, ES Vic. Any instruction from the President after his meeting with SINAG on sugar and on fertilizer for farmers? Thanks. I purposely did not answer him dahil wala pa pong tugon ang Pangulo sa tatlong bagay na ito.
When the order was released anyway, Rodriguez says he confronted Sebastian and the other signatories. Sebastian insists he was authorized to sign orders on behalf of the agriculture chief, a position also held by President Bongbong Marcos. Although he failed to ask Mr. Marcos about Sugar Order Number 4, he says he acted in good faith in the face of a looming sugar crisis.
If I don't act, I could be reprimanded or something like that. But if I also act, that's also the risk, Your Honors.
Sa pulis at sa military, maraming namamatay sa maling akala. Pag nag-assume ka ng nag-assume, ay talagang lives are at stake.
Senate President Mig Subiri says the bags of sugar seized by authorities in local warehouses do not paint a picture of a shortage. But Sebastian maintains that without importation, supply would only last until end of August. This is backed by the former administrator who drafted the order.
Different bodegas from Quezon City, Laguna, Bulacan, Pampanga. Is this a shortage? Is this the shortage that you're saying?
You mentioned we have 123,000 metric tons. Our monthly consumption for raw sugar, Your Honor, is 170,000 metric tons per month. And approximately 85,000 metric tons per month for refined sugar.
For Senator Risa Ontiveros, it all shows the need for better leadership at the Agriculture Department. She also says Rodriguez still has a lot to explain. He excused himself to attend a cabinet meeting after reading his statement.
This was not only about one man misinterpreting intent and acting outside powers. Ultimately, this is the fallout of a messy, haphazard bureaucracy.
The Senate Blue Ribbon Committee approved a motion to recall the executive secretary to the next hearing. Newly appointed SRA officials will also be invited. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Consumers are facing limited supply of sugars in the markets, but the Agriculture Department says this may change in the coming weeks as the government is eyeing to bring in supply from neighboring countries. Chrissy Di Matulak reports.
BB Cruz recently increased the pricing for the rice cakes he is selling. From 10 to 40 pesos, he is selling it now at 20 to 50 pesos. Sugar is a main ingredient for BB's rice cake. He has no choice but to buy sugar despite its current steep price.
Oo, tsagaan na lang para may paninda ka lang. Ganun na lang talaga. Tsagaan na lang kung kailan bababa.
In wet markets, there is little to no supply of white sugar. Consumers and vendors alike are bearing the brunt of this situation.
Kasi nagtitinda po ako ng mga merienda, gumagamit talaga ako ng asukal, pero ngayon hindi na kasi bihira na tapos ang taas pa. Sobrang mahal, hindi mo na ako kumukuha pag bumaba na lang uli.
Consumers are hoping authorities would be able to address this apparent sugar shortage. According to the Agriculture Department, the president is in talks with companies abroad to supply sugar to certain supermarkets in the country. This could tame the price of sugar to go as low as 60 pesos.
150,000 ang inapprove ng presidente. Ito sa mga producers like Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Alaska, Nestle, and others. The 75,000 metric tons noon. The other 75,000 will be distributed equally by SRA to different entities that are getting it, like supermarkets, mga nagtitinda sa palengke.
Some supermarket retailers are selling sugar for as low as 70 pesos per kilo, following an agreement with the president. However, Stephen Kua from the Philippine Amalgamated Supermarket Association deemed it unfair, saying common retailers should have the same opportunity.
We find it a bit unfair that the other retailers are not given that opportunity to sell sugar at 70 pesos a kilo, di ba? Kasi siyempre, medyo kakainin din ng market namin yan, mapupunta dun sa big three.
The Agriculture Department said the country is eyeing to import sugar from neighboring countries like Thailand in order to have enough supply until the end of this year. The agency also said that an increase in the production of sugar for next year will be ensured to avoid such shortfalls. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
More stories up ahead. Rainbow auroras, giant storms, and far-off galaxies are on display in NASA's latest images of planet Jupiter. Keep it here on Newsnight. Welcome back to CNN Philippines. Authorities keeping an eye on the level of Marikina River because of non-stop rains. Paige Javier joins us live from Marikina City. Paige, what is the very latest?
Pia, Marikina City officials are on alert as the water level in the Marikina River continues to rise. The first alarm was raised about 10 minutes before 5 this afternoon. This means that residents must prepare for evacuation, especially those living in low-lying areas and those beside the river. Earlier, we heard the warning signals or the sirens telling people here in Marikina that the water level has reached 15 meters. All 8 floodgates have been opened as of this afternoon. Right now, behind me is the current water level, and it has risen to 15.3 meters. It's continuing to drizzle here in Marikina, so this may continue to rise. Marikina City Mayor Marcy Teodoro says there are no reports of flooded areas just yet, but they have received reports of preemptive evacuations. 4 families composed of 15 individuals were brought to the Nangka Elementary School, which is a critical area, especially when it floods. Mayor Teodoro says all of their evacuation centers are open and ready to accept their residents. If the water level hits 16 meters or the second alarm, residents must proceed to evacuation centers. However, if it reaches third alarm or 18 meters, forced evacuation will be carried out by the LGU. Earlier, we also monitored rains in large parts of the metro. In Talayan Riverside in Quezon City, a netizen captured via time-lapse video the rising flood waters in their area between 12 p.m. and 1 p.m. Residents say that flood has already subsided. We'll keep monitoring the situation here in the Marikina River area. Back to you, Pia.
Paige Javier reporting live from Marikina. The Education Department coordinating with schools affected by severe tropical storm Florita. Classes in public schools have been suspended today in Metro Manila and surrounding provinces, as well as in Zambales and Bataan. Some local governments postponed the first day of face-to-face classes yesterday, while students in some areas waded through flooded waters or streets.
We will again come up with updates and maybe perhaps come up with a plan once we've discussed everything with the school and we assess the situation, para po hindi naman maging parang lugi ang mga bata na to at mawalan sila ng sufficient time in terms of school time. We will be assessing the students, meaning we will be giving them assessments so that we will be able to profile our learners and cluster them accordingly, para po dun, because what we are targeting to do is to identify saan yung mga learning gaps ng ating students at dun mag-focus.
For the DepEd, school opening went smoothly. The agency says it has identified schools that lack desks and armchairs and is looking to hire more teachers. Some public schools in Cebu province still recovering from the impact of Typhoon Odette roughly 8 months ago, with hundreds of classrooms still unfit for learning. In one of the biggest schools in Cebu City, the APAS National High School, 14 classrooms were damaged or have no roofs. The principal says the Cebu City Schools Division has yet to provide funds for repairs. Meanwhile, DepEd addressed a viral video taken by a newspaper reporter inside a school in Manila. The video shows grade 7 students of the Jose Abad Santos High School seated on the floor. The caption stated that chairs inside the classroom were not enough for all students. DepEd spokesperson Michael Poa says the agency is aware of the incident, with the regional director immediately taking action.
We are admitting may shortage naman talaga nationwide tayo sa mga classroom facilities. No? However, in this particular case, ang sabi po nila sa akin is wala daw shortage. So dito po sa Jose Abad Santos, there are enough chairs because the needed chairs were supplied from Carlos P. Garcia.
Jane Bautista, the Philippine Daily Inquirer, says she and her editors are standing by their story. She says she only reported what she said was a lack of preparation and had no intention to malign DepEd or the school. The health department cannot confirm yet whether there is already a local transmission of monkeypox. That is after the country recorded its 4th monkeypox case in a 25-year-old patient who had no travel history. Health officer in charge, Maria Rosario Vergere, says none of the 14 close contacts showed symptoms, traveled overseas, or were exposed to someone who did.
We are still trying to backtrace, verifying information so that we can establish the source of infection. And that is the only time that we can tell you and confirm to the public if this really is a local case or not.
The DOH has now identified 18 close contacts of the second monkeypox case, of which 17 are health workers. Only the health worker who took care of the patient is considered at medium risk for infection. Meanwhile, all 17 close contacts of the third monkeypox case have not shown symptoms, but they are still in quarantine. A House leader says funding for the Philippine General Hospital could still increase after its proposed 2023 budget was slashed by nearly 900 million pesos. House Appropriations Committee Vice Chair Stella Kimbo says the budget for PGH could change As Congress tackles the General Appropriations Bill, the University of the Philippines has proposed 23 billion pesos for its hospital services next year, but the Budget Department only allotted 5.4 billion.
Ang PGH ay isa sa recipient ng mga amendments na nangyayari. That happens almost every year. Kaya kung mababa ang NEP, wag muna tayong maging sobrang concerned. Kasi magagawan pa natin yan ng paraan.
The Makabayan bloc slams the budget cuts for UP and PGH, saying this shows the administration's misplaced priorities. The Appropriations Committee will begin hearings on the 2023 proposed budget this Friday. A lawmaker questions what she calls exaggerated budget of the Commission on Elections if the Barangay and Sangguniang Kabataan polls are moved to December next year. COMELEC estimates it will need up to 18.4 billion pesos, more than double the current funding. Electoral Reforms Committee Chairperson Senator Amy Marcos says the increase should only be at 15%. But COMELEC Chairman George Garcia explains it needs funds for more precincts, supplies, and personnel. The Senate panel asked COMELEC for a more detailed breakdown of its budget.
We really have to get the numbers that Senator Bina is requesting kasi nalilito na kami. Nung nag-compute kami ng worth nung exemption that was vetoed, nasa 140 million lang. Kaya nagulat kami kung bakit na veto dahil maliit lang naman. Pero ngayon sinasabi ninyo up to 5B.
Meanwhile, COMELEC insists it is ready if the polls push through this December. Up next on Newsnight, Blackpink breaks a record with the debut of its newest single, Pink Venom, and a new series of flip phones offers mind-bending, exciting, and smart designs in a new collection. Keep it here on CNN Philippines.
It can be dangerous out there. Buti na lang there's locally superfruits. Para sa akin, super nutritious, super delicious. All superfruits contain more antioxidants.
Welcome back. James Webb Telescope's newest images features Jupiter, a beautiful glowing planet with aurora and shimmery storms. NASA's Space-Based Telescope wowed the world with colorful images of the nearby planet and other far-flung galaxies. The stunning photographs showcase Jupiter's faint silver rings and two bright moons named Amalthea and Adrastea. From outer space to sports, Team Philippines looks to nab its first win in this year's AVC Cup for Women, facing China later at 7 p.m. at the PhilSports Arena in Pasig. The Philippine squad, made up of creamline players, dropped its opening match against Vietnam in straight sets on Sunday, but the Cool Smashers may come out in full force tonight with ace-setter Gia Morado de Guzman and head coach Sherwin Meneses expected to make a return after missing the first match because of health and safety protocols. Blackpink's hit new single Pink Venom enjoyed a massive opening day as it hit the #1 spot in streaming platforms. It is the most watched music video of 2022, according to online streaming platform YouTube's first 24-hour view ranking. With a staggering 90.4 million views on its first day, Pink Venom is the group's biggest music video debut so far. And that is it for tonight. Join me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pio Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines. And before we go, we leave you with an exciting look at some much-awaited devices.
Samsung aims to change our behaviors forever with the arrival of their new foldable devices.
the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 and the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. Samsung Philippines celebrated the launch of the newest additions to the Z series in the Grand Hyatt Ballroom with a live event and special program.
Welcome to Greater Galaxy. Meet our latest and greatest Galaxy Z series yet that will continue to reshape the smartphone category and reimagine greater experience for you.
We improved the durability even more. We've made it lighter, even stronger, and we've improved the functionality, the overall functionality of using the new foldable form factor. So the Galaxy Z Flip 4 is the ultimate tool for self-expression. Right? It features the Flex Cam, which gives you the power to unlock new angles as you can pop it down, and it gives you a unique hands-free camera experience. The Galaxy Z Fold 4 is the ultimate tool for productivity. Right? So it's perfect for multitasking. It has features like the all-new taskbar, and with the widescreen, there's seamless transition between apps. So that's perfect, and it's best for go-getters and professionals and goal-driven individuals.
They can act as their phone and that's a tablet. It's easier to work on the go.
As somebody who really loves to travel, especially alone, with the Galaxy Z Flip, you can completely take photos on your own. Like your phone is your own tripod.
Alongside these additions to the Z series, Samsung has also announced new innovations when it comes to their wearable technology, the Watch 5 series and the Buds 2 Pro.
So we're equally excited about our new wearables that we're launching here tonight. So the Galaxy Watch 5 series is the watch that knows you best. The more you wear it, the more it can help track and monitor your health progress. And it can give you coaching, not just when you exercise, but we have this thing, a very unique feature called sleep coaching. So we can track your sleep, and it gives you very detailed assessment of the quality of your sleep. The Galaxy Buds 2 Pro is our most advanced earbuds. We're leveling up the sound quality. Actually, we can now deliver lossless sound up to 24-bit hi-fi audio, which is unique for wireless earbuds.
If you thought we became bold, now we are bolder. Yesterday was great, but this year of smartphones is greater.
Unfold a greater Galaxy with the Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 4 and the Samsung Galaxy Z Flip 4. Now available for pre-order and on sale in the Philippines starting September 2.
Sam Sidwani, CNN Philippines.
This program is
Travel and change of place impart new vigor to the mind. So says the Stoic philosopher Seneca. Many Filipinos are relieved as travel both locally and internationally are beginning to open again. But what do medicine and psychology tell us about traveling? In today's episode, we'll explore the benefits of traveling and why this can be good for your health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome to MedTalk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Our guests are here today to give insights on the health benefits of traveling. With us is Luis Angelo R. Villaruel. He's a psychologist from the University of Santo Tomas Hospital and founder of Kintsugi Sai. Also with us is Mr. Aaron Palabiab. He's a filmmaker and content creator and travel extraordinaire. Thanks for joining us on the program, to the both of you. Now, it's often said that going on a vacation or a trip outside the home for a certain period of time can clear the mind. Now, I'll start the conversation with Luis. How does traveling affect our mental health? How can it clear our mind? Why is it recommended for people to travel, get out of a certain situation, who experience stress, maybe sadness, or even grief?
Definitely, traveling can affect how one experiences their daily lives, no? It gives us a reset, quote unquote, It gives us that opportunity to take a break. It provides stress relief, obviously. When we consider traveling as a form of vacation or as a reward, an incentive that we set for ourselves, it allows us to experience new and positive experiences, which can fight off different types of mental health problems, no? For example, we feel a little too stagnant, trying out new things can be exciting, can be great for us to be able to lift up our mood and to get us going. It can even improve our creativity, for example, by exposing us to things or to cultures that we are not so aware of. So if we go to a different country, or even here in the Philippines, if we could just visit provinces, and we've been here in Metro Manila our whole lives, it opens us up to a lot of different things, a lot of different opportunities, things that we don't usually get in our everyday lives.
Now, Aaron, is there some truth to what Luis said in the case of you? Is traveling part of something that you don't get out of when you don't travel?
Absolutely. I agree 100% with everything he said. Especially, I think, for us who live in big cities, particularly a city like Metro Manila, we don't realize until we get out, I think, maybe how closed in our minds, our consciousness have become. And when we travel, we experience a literal and figurative opening up, I think, of the mind. We see new possibilities. We're able to break old patterns. And that just opens up the doors to growth, I think, in terms of what you get out of travel. And I think that's why it's such a rich experience.
That's something that I, and I'm sure our viewers, long to achieve whenever we do travel. Now, because our bodies are designed to move. That's why psychologists recommend exercising so our bodies can produce happy hormones. Now, Luis, how does going on a trip manage our risks of, say, depression or anxiety, or overall, how can it manage our mental health?
So when we talk about depression, it's the more common one is stagnancy. No? That's the more common feeling that people experience. It's like we're unable to do things, or we are helpless to do certain things. So traveling gets us out there, gets us moving. As one of the things that us psychologists, we actually recommend for people who have depression is to just get moving, to find a point where one can start moving. And traveling in itself can become that starting point for certain people. Because when you feel like you're in a spiral or you're in a rump, it's kind of hard to find or identify that starting point at times. But when you have a reset, like for travel, it gives you that opportunity. But other than that, even just the physiological things that we go through when we travel, the sun, being outside, being on the beach, allowing yourself to be out, unlike us usually being stuck here in maybe feeling some cabin fever, the sun helps us produce those happy hormones you were talking about, some serotonin, no? Which can help boost our mental well-being.
And actually, in 2013, a study by the American Psychological Association also claims that sojourners, or people who stay away from home temporarily, are less emotionally reactive to day-to-day changes, improving emotional stability. Aaron, does that apply to you? Do you think traveling has been able to make you a calmer person, a more chill person, being able to react to day-to-day stresses in life better?
That is really 100% accurate. And it's not just an instant thing, it is a process. Because, when it comes to anxiety, personally, I'm kind of an anxious person. I would say I'm more anxious than most people you would consider adventurous. But I think what travel teaches you, especially if you go on an extended trip to somewhere really unfamiliar, the further you get out of your comfort zone or out of your routine, the more you deal with situations and the more you realize that you can overcome situations. And it's this mindset and practice of overcoming maybe unexpected things that I think can slowly help you overcome your anxiety when dealing with anything in life. You can say, I went through this in this isolated place in the Philippines or another country. I can get through what I'm going through today.
Now, Luis, a lot of people who aren't as well traveled, let's use Aaron as an example, may see traveling as a cause for stress, as a cause for anxiety, especially for the one who is paying for the travel itself. How can you reconcile that? How can traveling, once again, be something that is not stressful, that is not anxiety-driven?
One of the things that you could do is actually adjust the way that you are looking at this trip. Not necessarily by the fact of how much it costs, because that's not going to change inside your mind. But for example, leaving work at home, being able to leave these things behind as you go on your vacation or your traveling trip, making sure everything at home muna is okay before you leave, so that you don't have to think about them while you're on the trip.
Now let's talk about relationships and how travel can affect a person's relationship with either their significant other, a family member, or even a friend. Now, Aaron, when it comes to traveling, do you think your relationships with those people around you, do you think it strengthens them, or does it bring out the worst in people whenever you're in a situation where traveling to a new place is involved?
That is such a good question because, it can go both ways. But I think in the best case scenario, where you're able to travel with a proper mindset and an open mind, it will lead to growth and realization and ultimately, I think, more emotional maturity. And I think when you bring that back to your loved ones, you should be a better person for it. And as a result, have better relationships with the people around you.
So the benefits of travel don't end when that trip ends, but it can foster for a long time after that. But don't pack your bags yet. There are still some possibilities that traveling may not be the best option for your mental health. We'll explain right after the break. So stay tuned. This is MedTalk Health Talk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk. While travel is generally an enjoyable experience and can provide some positive effects, it can also cause us stress and anxiety for that matter. I'll ask Aaron this one. What are some of the sources of stress and anxiety that are common whenever people travel?
Okay, I can actually boil this down personally to two because despite how much I've traveled, I still feel a lot of travel anxiety. The first source of stress is just, I think, in transit. Riding planes, going through immigration, customs, that always gives me anxiety, just the crowds at the airport, all of the checks, all of the delays that could happen. And these are things that we don't really control and things that we just have to accept that, when I'm going to travel, this is the price of traveling. The second is inherent in travel as well. It's just when you travel, especially if you go on an adventure, unexpected things happen. That's what an adventure is. And in terms of that, I think we have to change our mindset and treat that as good stress, like exercise. And stress that will help us to grow and become better travelers and better people.
With COVID-19 restrictions on traveling loosening up as we approach the latter half of the year, it is understandable that people who stayed at home for the last few years can feel uneasy when traveling during the pandemic. In some cases, the thought of going somewhere new is enough to give someone anxiety and may be a trigger for some when traveling. Now, Luis, how has COVID-19 affected traveling in regards to people's mental state when traveling today?
People in general, or the entire populace has become a little more introverted lately, in the sense that we've kind of forgotten, not necessarily forgotten, but having difficulty interacting or connecting outside. So sometimes trying to exit these comfort zones may be difficult for some people when they would want to travel because they've been so used to their home. It's just a new adjustment period again for certain people. For others, it's a great experience, but for others, it might be a stressful experience altogether.
Now, Aaron, with this pandemic with us, and hopefully we're at the tail end of it, has it affected your outlook whenever you do set a trip to travel to? Are there extra precautions that you take? Are there certain places that you try to avoid because of COVID-19?
I would say not so much because of COVID-19 specifically, especially because other countries are much more even liberal than us when it comes to their policies now. But I think the important thing with regard to the pandemic's effect is we have to be even more studious now. We have to be even more prepared. We always have to look up what's required because there's more things that we need than before in terms of documentation. We need to know more what to expect. So I think it's extra effort in preparing for the trip and making sure that we don't get caught out somewhere without all of the requirements and all the precautions we need.
So I think a key factor there is being prepared, which we'll be talking about later on in the show. Now, Luis, how about people who were anxious already about getting sick, having germophobia even, before the pandemic started? Now that the pandemic is the fact of life, how can that not be a hindrance to them being able to get out of their house?
when we were talking about these fears, now maybe fears of getting or catching something, maybe COVID or maybe something else, no? We just have to first off prepare. Like, we know that there's a pandemic going on. So we just have to prepare first off, like constantly wearing our face mask, washing our hands, no? Making sure that we are doing these things as part of a habit. And once we feel more secure knowing that even if there are risks in exposure, so long as we're following the proper protocols, we're following the proper procedures, it gives us that sense of confidence in being able to still do other parts of our life. COVID-19 is really going to become a part of our life now. That's why we're here in the new normal. So it's just something that we just have to accept as part of our lives. And so long as we are maintaining social distance and at the same time following the protocols, then generally we should be fine.
Now, Aaron, I'd like to ask you, since you're a seasoned traveler, I see that you travel with different modes, not only by automobile, but you travel by motorcycle as well, which may limit what you can carry. So when it comes to your health, what are some of the basic things that you do carry with you wherever you go?
Well, definitely in terms of health, of course, there's always the hand sanitizer or the alcohol. I always have sets of extra masks and also a reusable mask because, again, in the course of travel, especially by road, you can easily lose your mask. But definitely, I always just carry a little pouch that has a lot of the most essential meds I might need, meds that will really be important to provide relief. For me, it's my antihistamine. It's a little bit of painkiller, stuff for headaches, stuff for feeling car sick. Also lots of water, definitely. And with that, I haven't really faced a situation. On motorcycles, you definitely need a first aid kit also.
So definitely a form of hydration anywhere you go is a plus. Now, traveling isn't a universal solution. Traveling can be a good experience, but going through with it in the hopes of it curing your mental health isn't guaranteed. When we return, we'll give you some tips on what to do before you take that next step out the door. We're your partner in health. This is MedTalk Health Talk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, where caring is our calling. Culture shock, poor planning, and decision-making can make the point of a trip backfire on you if you aren't careful, which is why making the proper preparations before a trip is vital and it is absolutely necessary. It's also important to be physically and mentally sound before leaving. Now, Aaron, when it comes to traveling, obviously it is part of your life. It is very important. But how important is your physical health? How important is it that everything is set at home whenever you do travel?
It's so important, and I'm glad you mentioned those two specific things. Of course, anybody can travel regardless of your physical state. But being able to travel, especially when you're physically fit, is like one of the true pleasures of life. Again, we were made to move. And when you travel, when you're fit, you can just go further, you can last longer, you can see things that would be less accessible if you need to hike. So it's so important. And talking about things at home, on the other hand, it's nice to go into travel, with as little negative baggage as possible so you can really be fully present and really enjoying. Because if things aren't good at home, if you're stressing about work, then you can run away to the farthest country, but you're not running away. You're not getting away from what's inside you. So that's also equally important, those two things, to really be fully immersed and get the benefits from travel.
Now, Luis, my question for you, we've been talking about how preparation is key. But what about spontaneous travel? Is traveling, getting out of a certain situation with some form of spontaneity, is that healthy? Leaving everything behind and just going to travel on a whim?
There would be times when there would be just these sudden trips where you'd want to go to Tagaytay or just have a road trip somewhere else. And these spontaneous trips can provide you with those new memories that last you a lifetime. These experiences, these feelings that you go through, maybe by yourself, maybe with other people, they're all very, very much positive. But it doesn't always mean that we should always just leave things behind, no? We still have responsibilities. For example, we don't just suddenly up and leave when we know we have a big event coming, because that could be stressful for you or for other people at the same time. So spontaneity is okay, but while also being considerate at the same time.
Could you explain a little bit further to our viewers when traveling should be healthy so that it doesn't fall in the realm of escapism or people trying to look for an out towards responsibility for that matter?
So for us to be able to determine that, or when I have sessions with clients or when I talk to people, one thing that I always ask them is, what is your reason for doing this? What is the motivation? There are some people who say, I just really miss traveling. I really want to go out. I really want to do something. If it's something that you really want, it's not necessarily escapism. But for example, if the answer is something close to, I'm just so stressed kasi talaga with everything that's going on in my life and I just want to go away from it. I want to take some time away from it. Well, that is perfectly okay at the same time. And I'm not saying that people shouldn't take breaks. When the focus is too much about, rather than confronting or being able to go through with what it is that you have to go through, and rather you want to withdraw instead, that's when it starts to become escapism. So it's really a lot of introspection.
So it's definitely important that you know or you are aware of the reasons for your travel to reap the maximum benefits from that. Now, I'd like to talk to you, Aaron, about emergencies because a lot of people travel, they don't really think about what could go wrong. They're trying to be positive with their travels. But what are some of the more important things that our viewers should be wary about, of course, when it comes to emergency situations?
Fortunately, I've never had to face that situation, but for me, I guess like the minimum thing you can do, which is a requirement anyways, always have your travel insurance and any other health insurance you might have on top of that. And again, always stay informed about kind of the security and health situation at the place you're going to. Talk to locals if necessary. I wouldn't say avoid all risk because that's part of travel, but if you're going to take the risk, then be prepared. And just be as smart as you can be and you'll have a great trip. In all my years of travel, I haven't really encountered a really bad situation, fortunately.
Now, Luis, for our viewers who have seen the pictures that Aaron has, they might be intimidated on trying to enjoy the travel because they might associate enjoying travel as being adventurous. I'm not adventurous. I won't be able to enjoy travel. Is this the case? Does someone need to be adventurous in order to enjoy traveling?
It depends on what kind of traveling you're doing, but the overall answer that I would give is no. You don't need to necessarily be adventurous. You could be as calculated as you want. Sometimes traveling is not just the hiking, the going to a different destination where you're just unfamiliar. Sometimes traveling is going back constantly to somewhere that you are familiar with. For example, staying at a very relaxing resort or a spa where you could just be away from your daily life. That in itself can be the essence of traveling, being away from your daily grind, no? So if one just prefers to just stay in like on the beach side or stay somewhere that's surrounded by nature, maybe in a cabin somewhere, that's also perfectly fine. And you don't need to be too adventurous to go that way. The only real requirement that you would need to travel is just being able to sometimes step out of your comfort zone, so you can experience many things.
Now, before we go, Aaron, do you have any advice, any tips for our viewers who are thinking about traveling?
Absolutely. I would say, any reason to travel is the best reason to travel. Get inspired, find places that you want to go, and then just go.
Now, Luis, your advice for our viewers?
Just do whatever you want to do at that time. There is no necessarily shoulds other than preparing for yourself, making sure everything is safe. Just remember to enjoy your trip. That's the whole essence of it naman.
Yes, that is true. Thank you so much, Luis Angelo Villaruel and Aaron Palabiab, for being with us today and sharing your insights about traveling. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and we'll see you again next time on MedTalk Health Talk.